Good morning, Reverend Linda McLeod here. Happy Hydesville Day. What do I mean by that? It's our 171st anniversary today of the modern spiritualist movement. I've been feeling like I've been in hibernation for the winter and I haven't been sharing for a very long time, but I feel inspired now after listening to Janice Nohavik and Brian and Simon streaming live on Facebook their services. You can just Google them and you will be able to be involved in their most wonderful anniversary celebrations within their churches. Also, if you haven't read the book From Magician to Mystic, Magician to Mystic by Simon and Brian, and also Droplets of God with Mavis Patilla. I highly recommend these two books to also get you inspired and motivated. Now, what I've actually come on to say and be inspired to say is there's so much energy and movement within the springtime that it awakens that within our soul. For those of you that get awakened in this season of time, it awakens within the soul that you want to be involved, that you have to have that attunement because you see this new life. You see the springing forth of the calling of the soul to be attuned to the spirit. So with that in mind, there is a beautiful gentleman that was a tutor at the Arthur Findlay College in Stansted, England. You can also Google that if you don't know about it, where people from all over the world come to explore and study the faculty of mediumship. And this tutor's name was Len Lobin. Now, he was from Scotland, and he was a very gentle, beautiful soul. He had written some events that he had downloaded from the spirit world far before his passing into the spirit world, which spoke about the rising of the phoenix and talked about the Summerland and coming together as a society and rebuilding the spiritualist movement, rebuilding the most beautiful life energy into the movement. And this is expressed as well in Brian and Simon's books. So here too, I would like to read a short little quip that I feel was inspired by Mr. Len Lobin, now in the spirit world. So thank you, love. Thank you for this little bit of sharing. So if we believe that all things were manifest by spirit, may it be assumed that different religions were planned to fit the different people and cultures in various parts of the world. However, it must have been the intent that they coexist rather than be confrontal. That they create an environment of learning rather than suppression. And it was therefore imperative that a movement be born, an ideal, an inspiration. It must be revealed to the world that would take account of all the best of man's stumbling steps towards spiritual enlightenment and knowledge, our true pathway of life, and our eternal existence. And thus, modern spiritualism was born. Now, you all know, or if you don't know about the events that happened in the Hydesville on March 31st in 1848, you can Google that as well, because if you're watching this, you have access. And they'll come up with a lot of information and YouTube videos on it. One thing that I think is an imperative to note is that the knockings that the communicator Charles B. Rosna had given to the Hydesville sisters through their learning of the alphabet within the knocks, like 1 was A, 2 was B, and so on, that he had informed them where he was buried and how he was murdered and what the events were about. So I think the revelation here is really important to state that it wasn't until a few years later that his remains were actually found in the basement dug under the concrete. So it could not have been made up. The girls had no knowledge of this many years ago. This to me is the most beautiful start of a beautiful commitment between those in the spirit world and those here on the earth plane that have been chosen to be the bridge of communication and this little bit of heaven on earth. So I would like you to open your hearts, open your minds, and be open to investigation. You know what they say with the open umbrella. So please remember to do your own study, feel what's right for you. And I also want to suggest that in these days, it was really trying to be suppressed, mainly because modern spiritualism, the churches felt threatened by modern spiritualism. Because if they found out, and let me quote here a little bit from Lynn, if the populace of the world accepted love, compassion, and messages of hope that were being transmitted to all people from their loved ones, and the belief that all those who passed to the higher side of life automatically entered the spirit world, whether they were religious or not, it would then jeopardize the power of authorities, their hold over the people, and subsequently their wealth. So you can see the conflict within these churches and the knowledge that it wasn't their church and their religion that was going to lead them to the gates of the Summerland. Now, this being a threat, they, of course, incorporated the Witchcraft Act. And, we all know what happened. And if you don't know what happened, please also Google Helen Duncan, who brought this to a head when she was incarcerated for doing her mediumship demonstration. And everyone gathered together from the Spiritualist Union to help this lady out financially. And subsequently, she did pass from the injuries sustained during the interruption of her trance and channeling down. But one thing I would like to say about that is that because of this huge blow up, we now have the Mediums Act, which is finally abolished in 1957, the Witchcraft Act, which it really wasn't that long ago. So those of us that are having opportunity to meet in these gatherings of celebration, it is on the shoulders of our pioneers. And we have to embrace and love and feel gratitude in our hearts that we are able to practice in our parts of the world without fear, without condemnation. And that is also why I would ask that we support those that have every right to practice in their own cultures and religions without fear. So if we can teach the world truth, if we can teach the world to share this love and knowledge of spiritualism, of this movement, that we coexist, and we coexist with love, and we share that within everybody and every person in the world, what is going to happen? And that love never dies. We are eternal. I feel that we are going to bring this energy, this new influx of energy into the life of spiritualism. And there is just this breath of fresh air coming, and I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my heart and in my soul. And that doesn't come without the help of everybody. So within that, keep sharing your light, keep sharing your love. And of course, happy Hydesville Day. God bless. Thank you.